feel like I've been given all these gifts. I don't want to dig them in the ground. I want to use them. So in whichever capacity I can, I want to make sure that I kind of have used all my talents so that when my time's up, it's like I did what I was supposed to do with them rather than kept them to myself. But you default to your level of training. And that can mean on an emotional level or just in a practical sense. I think people really do underestimate mentorship. I feel like in every area of my life, I don't want to waste time making the same mistakes as somebody else.
Welcome to the Spotlight series, season 2 of the Showbiz Side Hustle podcast, where each week we meet one of the brilliant co-authors and creatives behind Spotlight on Success, the PerformerPreneur book that's redefining what success looks like both in and out of the showbiz spotlight. I'm your host here, Nicole Louise Geddes, and in these special episodes, we learn even more about the stories behind the sequins. Raw, honest, powerful reminders that the end of one act is only the beginning of another. So listen in as we chat challenges and triumphs and inspire you to shine in any spotlight you like. Here we are with another exciting episode of the Spotlight series. Today's guest is a creative powerhouse and changemaker. Rebecca Bernice Amissah is a talented vocalist, musical theatre performer, choir leader, coach, and business owner. She is the founder of not one, but 2 creative businesses, Gospel Essence and AmisStar Vocal Studios. From singing for royalty to starring on West End stages, Rebecca's career has spanned continents, genres, and generations. In her chapter titled Being Naive to the Rules Can Be Your Greatest Asset, she shares the highs, pivots, and passions of a life lived creatively, building community through music, raising her voice to make much needed changes in the musical theatre industry, and embracing the rhythm of motherhood along the way. It's a story of instinct, resilience, and redefining what it means to succeed. And I'm so grateful and excited to explore even more about the harmony, hustle, and heart of Rebecca's story here today. Big welcome to you, the beautiful, talented Rebecca.
Wow, thank you. What an intro. Thank you very much. So happy to be here with you today.
It's absolutely all true. Honestly, your chapter, your story, your journey has blown me away. So we're going to take the listeners even further into that and get to know you a little bit better, because obviously we only had a certain amount of words to really tell that story. So this is another opportunity to gift the listeners and the readers some more magic about you. And as the intro says, Rebecca, your chapter and story has played out on both stage and screen and across several countries. I have no doubt that the readers will relate to many of the pivots and the transitions and the things that you have done in your creative career. And of course, one of those stands out, becoming a mother. How old is your gorgeous little boy now? And when did this huge moment of transformation take place?
So my little one is 3 now, 3 going on 30. And yeah, I guess the big pivot kind of on the back end of the pandemic as well. So I became a mum in 2021, and yeah, I was in a show before the pandemic, and then it came back, and my agent got in touch with me and said, "Oh, the show's going to be running in about February." And I was like, as I was still quite heavily pregnant at the time, had no idea what kind of birth I was going to have, and if it was even feasible to say, yeah, I'm totally going to take on the role. So the team, everyone was really supportive to just, let's just see what happens. Luckily, it was fairly straightforward birth. So physically, I was like, okay, I can physically do this. But now the idea of having a baby, breastfeeding, I was like, okay, even if I consider this, I really want to continue breastfeeding. So my family were really supportive. And I guess in my mind, I was thinking, look, this is already in the bag. Let's just get this job done. It's on the CV. I don't know when I'm going to go back to work, but at least it's done. So I just sort of said to my agent, it's really important for me to be able to breastfeed. So as long as I can be supported to make that happen, then let's go for it. And luckily the team was super supportive to allow that to happen. But gosh, it was tough.
And those people that have read the chapter and indeed become a mother will know, how incredible you are to do those things that you set out to do with a baby in tow, because that new chapter of becoming a new mum is, you can't even prepare for it. I know there's so many things you can read, do, say, be told, but until you're in that moment. So I absolutely hold my hands up to you and admire everything you did. And I know that that was difficult for you as well once you'd started the process and realized, that this isn't a well-trodden path. And I think that's the beauty of the chapter of you telling your story, to just again enlighten the listeners and the readers what is absolutely possible when you push through and you don't listen to what people say is or isn't okay. Because I'm sure there was a lot of people in the industry, in your family, that maybe thought that this wouldn't work as well as it has done. So we talk about transformation into becoming a mother, but you actually, in my eyes, transformed into this leader, this change maker, and you're, lighting the way for new mums across the industry to see that this is a reality for them too. I'm so excited and proud of you.
Oh, thank you. I think it's such a hard decision to be faced with because, if you're a creative, we don't have, what do you call it, maternity leave. We don't have that luxury. We can't be like, oh, I'm going to apply for maternity now. We don't have the luxury. We don't know when work's going to come. So it is that thing of like, okay, well, it's here now. How can I make this work? I mean, maybe if it was a year contract, it would have been a bit more of a firm no from my end because I knew it was only going to be for like, I think it was 3 months. And I knew I had incredible support with my family and my husband. So I knew that I was going to have the support at home. And luckily, the support was also matched at work. And it was just learning to advocate for myself to be like, okay, this is quite difficult. How can we do this? Or like asking questions. But as you say, because it hadn't I went back to work when he was 15 weeks old. And whereas they might have had mums who've gone back when, maybe their child's one, a bit older. So there's not that kind of um, breastfeeding element necessarily in the way. So yeah, it's really, I think because of the way our industry works, where there's rules, but there's no rules, you kind of have to kind of be comfortable to be like, okay, we're just going to see what happens as well. And try and push for things that make sense for you as an individual and hope that you can kind of get some alignment as you kind of try to make a new path.
Oh, I've just got goosebumps because everything you said is so true and is exactly why I feel the book is so, so important. The line that there are rules but no rules. I mean, how much does that resonate with everyone in the industry? It's set out in such a way that you have to follow this path, you have to do that, you have to be seen to say these things and have certain things on your CV, all of those, train at the same places, all of those rules seemingly are there, but you and I and the authors and many other people in the industry know that those rules aren't necessarily true. They have been written by God knows who, God knows when, and there's people like you and I and the rest of the co-authors that are ripping up that rule book and saying you make your own rules. And this is an incredible story of the rules being rewritten by you. But equally, all of the chapters have people rewriting the rules to suit their life, to suit where they are on their journey, to suit their dreams. And that really excites me.
Yeah, it's really good to kind of be amongst people who have all kind of found like reading the different chapters and seeing everyone else's different stories and just going, wow, that's incredible. Because you kind of meet people on the day to day, but you don't know what their story is. So to have this opportunity to sort of see what has made them who they are today and what they've had to overcome, you kind of have more awe and you're like, wow, we are making a huge difference, even though on the day to day, when you're in Tesco's and just doing stuff, you forget everything you've had to do to get to that moment. So you kind of, that makes you and to keep going. So it's very inspiring to kind of hear other people's stories. And we're so busy, we don't have the time to slow down and be like, actually, tell me a bit more about you. How did you come to be doing this? It's, oh yeah, you've got your own business, but you don't really look into what this person died or that happened and you had to do what? So it's really an amazing opportunity to sort of see how other people have done it and just kind of feel in good company.
100%. And we are in exceptionally good company. Your journey has been a long and wonderful one, still performing in the industry now. So some authors, some stories have exited, some are just re-emerging. Yours has seemingly been very steadfast. You're still very much performing, singing, and talk us through a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think it's just I'm not done. So even when I kind of go into the sort of business side, I always make sure that I'm still giving myself space to perform on whatever capacity that is. So like just the weekend gone, I just sung at a wedding with my friend's choir who also has his own business. So I just try to leave space for that. Like I'm not I, I think there was a time when I was doing more business and someone contacted me and said, "Oh, do you know any singers?" And I was like, they don't realize I can sing. I've kind of been doing too much of the business. So I've got to my cousin who does marketing always says that when you're sort of branching out doing other things, you've got to think, she used the example of Dove soap. So like Dove does like, probably does shampoo, he does lots of different things, what body wash, all different things, but there's always no Dove for the soap. So I kind of had to like readjust to make sure that people know that I'm a singer and I do all of these other things so that the other stuff didn't ever supersede myself as the singer until I'm ready to not do the singing anymore. So I always make sure that that's how I've kind of twisted the brand so that they're not, and because I don't, it's not like Rebecca Amissah singers, it's Gospel Essence or AmisStar vocals. They're separate. And I'm hope that it's clear that they are kind of under the umbrella of Rebecca Bernice Amissah, the kind of brand, and then they kind of sit underneath so that when people are looking for a vocalist, they will think of me. And then if I can't do it, I can be like, but I can find you a singer under my umbrella, or you want a vocal coach, or you want teaching, or you want anything. It's under the umbrella of what I can provide. Um, yeah, and I think because I still have an agent, so like they're working very hard behind the scenes to get me work, even though my terms have changed. So everything's very, short contracts. I don't want to do tours, nothing. It has to make sense to my current uh requirements at home. So there's still opportunities that come up, even though they've changed from when I first started with them.
I love that because it's evolving, isn't it? It's making sure that your life and your passions and your purpose are all intertwined in the absolute best possible way to give you the life of your dreams. Again, what the essence of the book is. Performerpreneur, you're still performing, you're entrepreneur. I love that insight that at one point you did feel, or you must have been perceived as more business than performer. And that is where we need to get the balance right as performerpreneurs. And which is why I absolutely love the word, because we're not saying we're completely entrepreneurial and we're business people over here. And we're also not saying the only thing I can do is sing, dance, and tap over here, which is that perception of a performer. That word to me brings all of this together. You're doing it beautifully, performing, running businesses, having financial stability, creating your own schedule, your own joy. And the more people we can get to understand that you can be and do both, the happier people will be, right?
Absolutely. I think you are a creative person, you kind of you get the excitement from doing different things, or at least I do. And I've very multidisciplinarian, if that's the word. Like my previous career, I used to make props and sets for like film and TV. So I still love that element. So I've changed that for, I still have that outlet, even if it's just for my child. But I still get to kind of, make the big props and do that kind of fun stuff. And then career wise, it's like I love community work. Like I'm working with the Big Sing and I have a community choir, and I just love helping people find their voice, finding their potential, and gaining that confidence for themselves as an outlet within their own life, as well as just being on the stage and having that moment, like, someone's wedding or, a gig or whatever it is, making people have a good time, or, you know, recording, just finished song at the studio and just having that moment of like, creating a song and having that finished product. So for me, I just want to make sure that I'm covering as many of those um parts of myself that I just so that I can feel like I'm feeling my potential. Like as I always remember a parable, because as a Christian, there's the parable of the 5 talents of the king gave, I'm gonna end up saying this wrong. The king gave 3 servants some, they called them talents, but they're like coins. The first servant put his in the ground. The second is some small investments, and then the third really sort of really used the talents and got a really good return. And then the sort of parable of the message is basically use your talents and multiply. So I always kind of have that I remember that from a child, just thinking, I feel like I've been given all these gifts. I don't want to dig them in the ground. I want to use them. So in whichever capacity I can, I want to make sure that I kind of have used all my talents so that when my time's up, it's like I did what I was supposed to do with them rather than kept them to myself. Because I think when you are creative, it's a gift you're supposed to share on whatever capacity it is. If it's to dance, people can dance so beautifully that it brings you to tears. That wasn't my gift. There's other things you can do, but I feel like whatever it is, if it's painting, if it's playing the violin, whatever it is, I just feel like use your gift, because you can use it to make yourself feel good. But when you use it for other people, that's what community is. That's what we're supposed to do. So yeah, I think it's really important that people, whatever capacity, it doesn't have to be to a profession for a profession, but just use what you can do naturally, to bring yourself and others joy.
Oh, 100%. And I often use the Venn diagram for exactly those reasons. Like, what do you love doing? What are you good at? Where's that middle sweet spot in the middle? What can you do with that information? Is there things that you need to be injecting into your life that that you've got a passion for, that makes you happy? How are you going to implement them? What are you going to do? And like you say, it doesn't have to be business. It doesn't have to be performing. It can be, I enjoy X, Y, and Z, so I'm going to make time for them in my own personal time and space as well. I think it's very powerful what you've saying, and I love that. With that in mind, everybody in the book has obviously come from a place where they want to share their story, they want to enlighten and empower people. And most of the authors, the co-authors, have had a few setbacks along the way. In your chapter specifically, you are riding a high of, the TV shows and the competition element of the choir, yet you're getting some negative feedback that is knocking your confidence. How do you overcome that? Because on whatever plane, whatever circumstance, we're all going to feel that, we're all going to hear that from somewhere or someone at some point.
I think when you have that negative kind of experience, because for me, I think when you're so used, like when you're a targets driven person and you kind of like, you want to do this, get a result, great, now get a result. And I definitely am that personality type. When you kind of get to a point where someone's saying this is wrong, and I didn't know how to correct what they were saying because I didn't have the skill set. Like there's a saying that I've learned, which I really think there's so much truth in it. And if it kind of landed more, I think we'd give ourselves more grace. But you default to your level of training. And that can mean on an emotional level or just in a practical sense. So being told that what I was producing as a musical director wasn't up to scratch, but I didn't have the skills to kind of better that. I was like, I'm literally doing the best that I can, and you're still telling me it's not good enough. What do I do? Okay, I'm not good at this. I'm not as good as this as I thought. Or maybe my echo chamber was making me feel I was better than I am. And it wasn't that. It's just I had to just learn the skills to take what I could do naturally to then skill it up. And I think there's so many things that you can come to that brick wall. And it's either sometimes when you get to that point of you're like, okay, now I need to skill up. And it's beyond you. It's a case of, okay, well, maybe this is as far as this is going. So how can I then pivot to somewhere else? Or, okay, what skills can I take from this to use it on something else that I can push further? So I think for me, because music had always been something that was inherently, I was gifted with to a point, I had to work for the rest of it. And I didn't know, and in a competition sense, isn't necessarily the place where you're going to be able to learn how to do that, because it's like, okay, you've got an arrangement, you've got to have it done by the end of the day, teach the rest of the group, then you've got to learn a routine. And it was just too much. And I didn't have anyone within the group that I felt like I could work off, because I never did before. So it was also unfair to expect them to be able to be like, okay, let's brainstorm, let's do this, because that wasn't asked of them. So we all kind of got to the point where no one could support me. Obviously, it's a TV show, so maybe things were said in a way that maybe they wouldn't have been said if it was a working environment. Also, I might not have been so upset and would have received it differently if it was a if that was a college, for example, and it was the case of a tutor saying, right, just go and try and understand some basic music principles, because I would make an arrangement that sounded good to my ear, but would be told like in a sort of more ABRSM, and I don't know what it stands for, but more kind of classical way, or this clashes with this, or it needs to be a C in this chord. I mean, I still don't know how to verbalize that stuff, even though I inherently understand it from a musical point of view. It's not the way that I express music. It's not the way that I can kind of have the conversation about music. So it's just a case of, oh, everything I've ever done, you're now telling me is kind of not the right way of doing it, even though it makes sense to in the great scheme of things. In this context, it doesn't. So I think it's about um understanding whether what's happening when it's what, at least in the case, in my case, once I took some time out to realize that it wasn't about me and it was about my skill and it was my opportunity to skill up or pivot. When I took that and sometimes to ignore, because it's a case of, okay, it might not be correct, but it sounds good, and it's not meant to be classical, it's soulful, it's, so where the good thing about having worked in so many different types of musical environments, so be in sort of more gig or musical theatre or gospel choirs, or is that you understand how people talk to each other. So jazz musicians talk differently to how pop musicians talk to each other, how orchestras talk to each other. So then you realize that, okay, I had the different language in the wrong room. So if I was to take that same language in another room, they would understand me better, or they could guide me better, because rather than saying it's wrong, it's like, try it like this. So once I had that space and I was able to like kind of deal with the bruises, then it was a case of, then I did train in musical theatre. And then I also was looking at different types of learning, just understanding and learning different types of music. It gave me the space to be like, okay, now I understand what they meant when they said that that sounded wrong. It was classically incorrect. And this is the way that it could have fixed that small problem, rather than making me feel I had to throw the whole thing in the bin. So bit of space, a bit of growth, healing, and also a really good exercise of just like forgiving myself for what I didn't know and just letting it go. Do this exercise with a coach who said, just like write all the things you want to forgive yourself for on a piece of paper, put it on like a barbecue or a bonfire, and just let it burn. And honestly, after I did that, I was like, it's gone. And I was able to just kind of put it, give myself a hug from that time and keep it moving.
I love that for you. And I'm so glad that you didn't give up. I'm so glad that you were able to take the time, the space to reflect, to burn those kind of worries and feelings and move through, because you've gone on to do some incredible things. I think one of the important things you said in that was you did your best. And I would love the listeners to hear that time and time again. Do your best. You can only do your best, and you can only do your best with what you've got. But the other important thing that you said, and that you went on to do, was to enhance your skills. Refine them, learn more, so that you have got this information to do with what you please and move into your next era, your next stage, and your next step. And I think when it comes to this book and this opportunity to tell the listeners and the readers that there are no rules, and that you will get setbacks, and you will get told that there's right and there's wrong, and you might feel deflated and knocked back. But when you build on the skills you have, and you build on the tenacity that you've had, that you've got, and you're open to growth, you're open to exploring, to understanding, the opportunities will just get bigger, more vivid, and better. And too many people in our industry, in the world, in our circles, we know these people, we've probably been them on times, occasions too, hit that brick wall of rejection, of being told that things aren't good enough, they're not good enough, this isn't the right path for them, and then they stop. And that breaks my heart. And that's why I think these conversations and this book and Performerpreneur are so important to the industry to just go, look, don't stop, build on it, work through it, ask questions, find support. So I think that was beautifully put. And I'm so excited and glad that you found those opportunities and those ways to work around that feeling, to build all of the amazing things that you went on to do. With that in mind, tell us a couple of those highlights because there's been many, and I'd love for the listeners that haven't necessarily picked up the book to hear a couple of those highlights.
I guess the biggest one, just for it's one of the ones for like for the grandparents, is I got asked to open for we was the prince at the time, so Prince Charles's 70th birthday. They wanted, so I when I started gospel lessons, I think I did it for a couple of years, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Let's have a look who can help. And so I approached the Prince's Trust. And I don't know if they're still doing it, but they help businesses. If you're a young person, at the time I was, um, to set up a business. So I went to them and I was like, this is what I'm doing. Help me. I have no ideas. What is the spreadsheet? What is accounts? What is the things? And so I think it was like a year. I really can't remember the duration of time, but they support you. And at the end, you make an application for, I think it's a bursary of some sort, and they help you, kind of at least get started. Um, and so many years later, they then said they wanted an example of a business they've supported for the Prince's Trust. And so they asked, they initially wanted the choir, but we just couldn't get it together with the time frame and stuff. So then I ended up doing it alone. And so I sung the national anthem with the Welsh Guard, on the Palladium stage, yeah, for his 70th, which was aired on ITV. So that was really an amazing kind of opportunity to do that. And my parents came and they watched, and I think they spoke to Prince Charles. We were in, is it Radio Magazine? One of those kind of like, ones with the TV guides and stuff. They did an interview with me. Yeah, it was a really, really great time. I did that and I was in a show. And so I missed my first day of the show. I was like, why don't you work? It's like, because I was singing for Prince Charles yesterday. I'm like, okay, that's a good enough excuse. And then what else? Off the back of the first TV show, the gospel lessons got flown out to Abu Dhabi to sing at the Grand Prix. That was a pretty cool gig. And we got to watch the races in between our sets, which is quite good. Yeah, I think those are the kind of the standout kind of moments. When I opened the studio, being nominated for New Business of the Year, like in two years running, was quite cool because I hadn't been open that long when they sort of said, oh, we're going to select you to be a finalist. Which was so, and then the second year they had a new category for most innovative business. And again, I was nominated as a finalist for that as well. So that was nice to kind of have the recognition for the performance side, but also the recognition of the business itself having clout. It was, for the way that the length of time the studio was active as a physical place. It's not bad record, I think.
Incredible record. An incredible record because, you and I both know it's a difficult gig starting a business, building a business, having a business run for as long as you have. That deserves a whole heap of recognition. And the thing that you said that I would love my listeners to really hone in on is that you went and asked for help. So we'll just go back to that Prince's Trust moment. You'd set up a business, as many of us do, without any business knowledge. I mean, that is absolutely a-okay. And that's where Manic Stage Productions, my first business back in 2005, was founded. Just like, this is what I want to do. This feels like I can do it. And then you get sort of few months, weeks, years down the line, you think, oh my goodness, this could be so much better with better foundations, better understanding. And you asked for help. You've just said loud and clear, you found an opportunity, you found somebody that would give you some information. And that was the huge, trust, the Prince's Trust, which I know does incredible work. But there's other people as well. And so, what I want the listeners to know, and this is not as help for myself, although it does work in line with what I'm saying, but find those people that can support you, that can help you, that can enlighten you, that can give you the information, because that information becomes confidence, and that confidence then grows and gives you the foundations to become a powerhouse in both business, performing, and all the rest of it. So, thank you for sharing that, because some people, they don't recognize that that was a really powerful moment in the story. And obviously you do and I do. I asked for help from some local business women that I could see doing fantastic things in my city. Nothing to do with what I was achieving or setting out to do, nothing to do with performing. But I was like, how are they doing that? I need to be amongst them. I need to be having coffee with them and taking in their energy. And you did the same. You reached out, you asked for help, and you got that in abundance from the Prince's Trust, and then went on to sing for King Charles when he was Prince. I mean, that is cool. That is so cool. So thank you for sharing that, because I think it's important for the listeners to know that we can't do it alone, right?
I think definitely, I think people really do underestimate mentorship. I feel like in every area of my life, I don't want to waste time making the same mistakes as somebody else. I'm definitely going to make my own, but I'd rather just kind of be like, give me the highlight reel of the things that are absolutely a waste of time to do. And let's kind of get there quicker. Not because it's like I'm just want to skip steps, but if somebody has done it before, if someone can guide you through it, if someone can say, if you can even just say, like, okay, I'm thinking this, or this, they'll be like, yeah, don't do those. Try that one, but like this. Then it just makes things so much easier, so much clearer, and you will learn so much faster to do what you're already doing. I just think people need to look for mentors anywhere they can, work with coaches, and if I know sometimes it's an affordability thing, sometimes you have to find, an online coach, someone on YouTube, somebody who's got some stuff, listen to podcasts, listen to things, and just kind of figure it out how to do it, because it's so hard. It's every aspect of life has its challenges. Why not seek some support of how you can get there? It's like when you think, how did we all learn like 13 subjects in 2 years at school? We did it by chunking it. Like maybe you do like maths, 2 hours of maths fortnight, but by the end of it, you were supposed to be able to take an exam. So even if you can't, some like what I'm learning in this stage of like having a child is like I can beat myself up and thinking I don't have the same productivity as I did before I had a child. Or I can realize that, okay, I have maybe a third, if I'm lucky, of the time I had before. So, yes, it may take me 3 times as long, or maybe I just have to do a third, 2/3 less, and just try and make sure that I can achieve that. So, even if it's a case of before I might have been doing, I don't know, going on tour, doing this, doing that, it's a case of maybe I'll do one show a year. Maybe I'll do a couple of workshops, because everything else still needs to be done. I can't not feed my child because I've got like something to do. I've got to do the so my sort of absolute have to do list has got a lot bigger, and I'm still only one person. So I just have to kind of find a balance to keep being kind to myself so that I can keep going. So that even if it takes me 3 times as long, I'm still going forward rather than standing still and being like, well, that's it then. Or just getting frustrated and being really mean to myself rather than thinking that, well, do you know what? It's actually really valid that we've had, tummy time or we've gone to the park, because those are also the formative times for my child, who will remember, when he's like 16, 20, 40, what I did with him, or at least the memory of what it felt like growing up for him. I have to be present. So, let's keep his therapy bill down by being present now. By just knowing that it just means that I will do less, but I can still achieve, but just in a different way.
A different way is the word, isn't it? And just changing the rhythm, as the opening said, just working with those new rhythms. Still means the music's played, like still means the things are happening. But what a beautiful rhythm it is. And again, it will change again. And that's important for everybody to know. And we do, but we can forget quite easily and we can get really stuck in that moment of frustration, like you say, that this isn't how it used to be, this isn't how we want it to be. But every step gets us a step closer to the next moment, the next spotlight, the next evolution, the next performance, whatever that looks like. You spoke about finding people to support you. And that's exactly what happened with the book. I reached out and said to you fabulous performerpreneurs, like your story needs to be heard. And you could have gone off and took that moment and gone, yeah, bloody well does, and I'm going to go do it. And that would have been great. But you chose to be part of the collaboration. Um, for the community aspect of it, for the support aspect, I'm not so sure. Tell me, why did that? Because I know you've written before as a solo project.
Mm.
Yet being part of the community of co-authors, creating this ripple together appealed to you.
It did. It was funny because I was kind of, you always thinking about, so everyone believes, and I think it's true. They have a story in them. You want to share something. So it was kind of like just in the back of my mind of like, oh, it'd be nice to do it again. And then you came along and you mentioned it, and I was like, oh, I don't know about the timing because unfortunately my dad was got a little bit, well, I say a little bit, but my dad's health just took a sudden turn, and I was like, this timing feels really bad. And then when it was obvious that he wasn't going to be here, um, when it was very obvious that he wasn't going to make it, I was like, this is going to be right in the middle of, doing this book. I'm not sure if this is going to work. But then there was when I spoke to my dad about it, um, he was very encouraging. Like my dad, the way he believed in me, like he made me feel like I could fly. So there was nothing that he wouldn't believe that I could do. Um, and so when I told him that the launch date for the book is on his birthday, and so that kind of made me feel like I think I should do this because I think it kind of gave me a purpose for the year in the sense of I just didn't you just don't know what grief is like until you've gone through it. And you also don't know how much you're going to be able to do. It's I think yeah, grief is such a life-changing moment, but it's also kind of swept under the carpet. People kind of just want you to kind of deal with it because it's too hard for them to deal with. So for me, I chose to do the project because I kind of felt like if I do nothing else this year, then I've done that. And the fact that it was on his birthday just felt quite special. So the being guided and prompted, I feel even if again, it's that thing of like having the sort of, okay, there's a deadline, I've got to do something. I feel like what's kept me going through this grief is having small things to kind of keep going for. Because it's so there are days where you can just feel like I absolutely just can't do anything. Having a small person is also something that keeps you going. I think I was having a particularly bad morning, and I just couldn't get myself out of bed. And then my son's little voice was like, "Mummy, I'm still hungry." So I had to kind of really force myself to get him breakfast, and then just went to like a play group because I had to just get out the house.
Oh, bless
So
you.
having something like the book and having the deadlines and having, I guess, the community, even though I felt like I wasn't really part of it because everything was like, I was definitely way behind because my dad died in January, which was very near the beginning of the process. And I was like, maybe I've misjudged this. Maybe this is going to be too hard. Um, but because a large part of my story that is the support that I've had with my family, at least not necessarily that I shared in that way in the book, but I know that every time I was like, I'm going to do this show, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, meant that the village had to assemble in order to support me to get that done. It was a really cathartic process to be like, yeah, I'm really lucky to have had the support and also um when the village comes together with loss. and seeing the legacy that my dad left. Like there was about 400 people at his funeral, and so many people, lots of people coming up and supporting us, and people still checking in on us and sharing things that my dad had said or had done for them. It's just kind of, for me, was like a testament of what legacy looks like. And um so yeah, it just kind of helps um having that thing to kind of push on. If I don't know if I'm even making sense.
You're absolutely making sense, and it's so powerful of you to share that because I know how personal it is. But to be alongside you in that journey, even just remotely, to guide you through this process, knowing that I could not do anything to physically help. And I'm so pleased you've got such a strong network and family. But the fact that you came into this project, you still pushed through and persevered with it, and that I was able to support you was incredibly important to me because your story is your legacy. And I love how that entwines with the fact that, your dad left such an impactful legacy on your family and community and the things and the people that he reached and touched. And you're doing the same again. And you should be so proud of yourself because people listening who have been through grief know and understand. And for you to continue to do good, to share, to empower, is incredibly brave. And you've done it in such a beautiful way. And thank you for being so open about that to end this podcast as well, because it has been a cathartic experience for everybody. That's the one word that most people have said, but to do that in such turbulent and unfortunate times is an incredible credit to you and your resilience, your perseverance, your tenacity, all of these things, Rebecca, that have got you from where you were many years ago to where you are now are still shining through. And I think it ends really beautifully to say exactly that. Like, there's no end to the amount of spotlights that you can shine in, and there's no end to the amount of things you can do in adversity, in creativity, in every aspect. You just have to be brave, and you took a real brave step in January, and I'm so glad that it paid off, and I'm so glad that you think that it was worth it, because I certainly am grateful for you to be part of this journey, and I know your dad would be so, so proud of you right now.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been tough, but I feel like that's the point of life. It's hard. Like you're going to love someone and you're going to lose them, and it's brutal. But then it's, what do you do in between? And then what do you do beyond? And I guess the beyond I'm still figuring out, but you still have to show up. You can't, I feel like surrender in the days where you haven't got it. But in the days where you feel like, okay, you can do something and do it with grace and kindness to yourself, because it's hard. It is really hard. And I definitely feel like as a society, we don't address or give enough space for anybody who's grieving. When suddenly, after when you're on this side of it, you're just like, what? How has everyone else coped? How's everyone else managed? And then you have more compassion to be like, okay, maybe that person who was just screaming their face off in the streets, you don't know what's happened. You suddenly, all of the things that you're experiencing, you're just like, okay, so there's a reason why somebody's having that moment, or somebody hasn't shown up in a certain way, after you understand how difficult it can be just to do the mundane things. So yeah, I do feel like my next, whatever it is going to explore why it's so difficult for us to be I suppose open with grief. And I feel like um because it's everything's so difficult, like I don't have time or energy or anything to have any, was it masks, or I don't have the energy for it, so I just have to show up how I am. So if I'm turning up to the gym and I'm like crying through my set, it's like, that's all I got, guys. So if it's making you uncomfortable, look away. Luckily my gym's amazing, they're very supportive, so that's not a thing. But we're so scared of being vulnerable. But I feel like actually we've all got stuff. Doesn't necessarily, it could be grief for different things, grief of things that haven't happened that you've wanted to happen, but we're not compassionate anymore. Or if we are, we're scared to show the compassion. That if we show up like that in the world, we can help each other more. we can, because it's hard enough without then having to pretend.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure I should feel as excited by this bit of the conversation as I do. It feels inappropriate that I'm bursting to be like, oh my God, yes. And before you said it, I felt that for you. I was like, do you know what? You're a change maker. You've created those ripples in the West End to help mothers with newborn babies to navigate that transition back into the theatre. And as you were saying it, I was thinking, and this is the next thing, like you need to be changing the perception of grief because you're doing it so beautifully. Like I know it's not planned on it, but I'm following you as a friend and social media and things like that. You are being really open about it, and it's really refreshing, and it's very rare that people are being that open about it. So I think you're absolutely right. I think you need to explore that because I think you are managing that moment, that really difficult moment with grace, like you said, with grace and kindness, and more people need that in their lives. Rebecca, you and I could speak for ages. We haven't even touched on the fact that we were friends many moons ago when we worked in New York together. There's so much more to our story, but this has all been about you, and this has been a beautiful conversation that I know will inspire another set of performers, another generation. People from all walks of life will be listening and thinking, yeah, I can resonate with that, and I can resonate with this, and I just think it's going to be so helpful. Thank you so much for taking the time. Thank you so much for being part of the collaboration and for sharing your story with the world. And I absolutely cannot wait to see what is next for you, my gorgeous girl.
Thank you so much. And thank you to you as well, you, Louise, the team, everyone who's kind of been so patient, so kind as we've all been, scrambling to hit the deadlines and like changing things and, asking questions. And also what you're doing on a sort of bigger platform with the PerformerPreneur, reminding people that it's okay to perform and to have a business. There's sort of very rigid way of thinking that I'm a dancer or I'm a singer, I'm a this. It's like you're a person and you do this today and you're doing that today. And, the industry, the way it is, means that we do have to open up and expand and pivot, and kind of giving people a platform to know that that's okay to do. And look at these people, this is what they're doing, is helping people realize that, okay, if the auditions aren't coming in, but you have all of this skill set, what else can you do so that you're not having to do the so-called mogul job that you hate? And then the frustration of how the industry can sometimes turn is a case of use your skill set, use everything, the resilience that you have as a performer who's getting all the no's and the setbacks. That in itself is something that you can garner and channel into something else. So thank you for helping remind people that is basically what they have within their power, and they don't have to just sit and wait for the opportunity to come. They can use what they have and create opportunities for themselves.
That's both of us cried on the YouTube channel now. Thank you. I'm really grateful for you for saying that. It absolutely means the world to me. We're going to end there because we'll both be blubbing for the rest of the interview now. But please do find and follow Rebecca and all her socials in the show notes. Follow her fantastic business. And if you haven't bought the book yet, why not? Like, go and buy the book on Amazon. It's called Spotlight on Success. Can't remember. Spotlight on Success, when passion meets purpose, and we would love for it to inspire you too. Big love, everyone. There you have it. Thank you for joining us on today's episode of the Spotlight series, where stories shine and success gets redefined. If you loved what you heard, hit like, follow, or subscribe, and be sure to grab your copy of Spotlight on Success over on Amazon. And don't forget to tag us at PerformerPreneur across all socials. If you've been inspired today to step into a new spotlight, you can find a whole community ready to support you at performerpreneur.co.uk, as well as up-and-coming events and even more about each author. Until next time, stay bold, stay brilliant, and continue to shine.